Hey everyone, it's Jordan, and today I'm going to be recommending you guys some sci-fi and dystopian books. So, I haven't done a lot of book recommendations video for a while, and I honestly miss doing those videos. I do want to do more, and I plan on doing another one in October for Halloween, but today I'm going to recommend you guys some sci-fi and dystopian books, and since I'm doing both sci-fi and dystopian, I haven't read many sci-fi books as I thought, and same as the dystopian books. I just thought I would combine them both just because I enjoy them both, and I got some books that I want to recommend you guys that are in those genres, so let's get to the book recommendations. So the first book that I'm recommending to you guys is Illuminated by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is about two teenagers that just broken up recently, and then they were ending up going on a mission together to find a cure to a plague, or there was a plague going on. Yeah, there was a plague going on, and the whole story goes from there. I've read this last year, and I really enjoyed the series, and I do recommend the audiobook, and I'm hoping that when I read the sequels, because I do enjoy this book so far, is to read along because it's told in different medias, and it kind of got me curious, and from listening to the audiobook without following along, I was confused on what was going on for a bit, but I still really recommend the series just because it's very unique, and I haven't read any sci-fi books that are in that format before, and I really want, and I think people should give this a try if they're looking for a sci-fi book despite how big it is, but to read along with the audiobook as well. And the next book that I'm recommending to you guys is Divergent by Veronica Roth. This is about a group of people called factions that are split into groups based on their personalities, and then there's a group of people that are their personalities mix up more than one faction called Divergence, and it ends up being illegal, and the main character ends up being Divergent, and then she tries to hide the fact that she's Divergent so she wouldn't get killed. I love this series so much, not just because it takes place in Chicago, and I've been to Navy Pier. It is actually where one of the places that they go to, and the movie, and I just always gush fangirl inside just because I love the series so much. And I know there's some people that don't like the series, but if you're looking for a dystopian book that you just want to, like for starters, like you want to start reading dystopian books but you don't know where to start, I recommend Divergent, just because, like, especially if it takes place in a city that you've heard of, which is Chicago. That's where it takes place, and I just really love the cover. It shows the skylines of the city, which I love, and I think many people should give this a try if they're new to the dystopian genre. And the next book that I recommend to you guys is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. It's about a girl whose father was who wants to be a pilot, and her father ends up being a traitor of the group, and that's why they're forbidding her to become a pilot, but she ends up and she ends up learning how to be a pilot, and I really enjoy this book, and I know that the second book came out last year, and I do want to continue on with the series because I really liked it so much, and I really like Spencer. Yeah, that's the main character, and I really like the atmosphere of this book as well, and I think if anybody's looking for a new author to try, I know Brandon Sanderson is very famous for his fantasy books, but this is the first Sanderson book that I've read, and it's a sci-fi, and I really enjoyed this book, and I do want to try his other books as well. And if you're looking for wanting to try popular authors, I do recommend this one if you're not sure which one to start off with, but Skyward, I think, is a really good choice for that. So the next book that I'm recommending to you guys is The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. If you guys don't know, I'm pretty sure most of you do. The Hunger Games tells a story about a society where they draw 2 children from each district and they fight to the death, and the main character ends up Katniss, who ends up volunteering to take her sister's place and goes into the Hunger Games instead. And I just love this series so much. I haven't talked about it on my channel for a while, but I've been meaning to want to reread it again because I love the series so much. And I also recommend this if they're looking for another dystopian book to test out, or to try out, like the other book that I just mentioned, and I know it's very popular, but I still think it's a really good start for reading a dystopian novel. And the next book that I'm going to recommend to you guys is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, and the first book is Cinder, which is a sci-fi retelling of Cinderella, and I just love the series so much. Like, each book tells us a retelling of a different fairy tale. Like, the first book is Cinder, the second book is Scarlet, third book is Crest, and then Winter as the last book in this series. And I just love the series so much that I think many people should try it out, especially if you want to try out a fairy tale retelling but you don't know where to start. I do recommend Cinder just because everybody knows the story of Cinderella, and it's a really basic story. Everybody knows that, and I think it's a really good book series, and it's one of my favorite book series of all time after I binge read it like 3 years ago now. And I just love this series so much, and I think many people should read it, especially when they're looking for a fairy tale retelling. And the next book that I recommend to you guys is Matched by Ali Condi. This is about a society where you're basically an arranged marriage, but you're matched with someone, you end up marrying them and having kids with them and all that after taking the test, I believe. I haven't read this in a long time, so I'm trying to remember. And then the main character ends up matching with 2 guys instead of 1, and the whole situation goes from there. Match is a really interesting dystopian novel. It is one of my favorites, and I think it's another one that people should try out, especially if they're looking for a romance, and like more romance based in the story, like especially in dystopian. I would recommend this. And I really love the series, and I haven't read this in a long time, and I know many people don't, but I think it's another one that people should try out, especially when it's the ones that is not as popular as others, and it's a really good one to try out, especially if you're looking for a book that has romance in it. And the next book that I want to recommend to you guys is Once and Future by Amy Rose Capeta and Corey McCartney. This is a sci-fi retelling of King Arthur, and in this story you follow the story about Merlin, who is trying to help Arthur defeat the villain, but he ends up failing, so that the whole cycle keeps going. There's a lot of incarnations of King Arthur himself, and then he meets Ari, and she ends up pulling the Excalibur, and the whole story goes from there. I really enjoy this story. I definitely want to read the sequel, and I think it's only a duology, so that's another thing for that. If you do want to like read a long book series, you want to read a short, like only 2 book series, I would recommend it. And I do really like this one just because I haven't read a King Arthur retelling before, and I really enjoy it because of that. And I also really love the characters that are in here, and they're fun, and it's definitely one of the ones that I think that if you're looking for a story that you're familiar with and you want to read a retelling of it but don't know where to start, I do recommend Once and Future, especially when it's a King Arthur retelling, and also if you're looking for a sci-fi twist on a retelling. The next book that I'm recommending to you guys is I Hope You See This Message by Farnaz Rishi. This is about a group of teenagers who are trying to figure out how to survive the last week before the alien invasion, and you get 3 different characters' perspectives, and you follow the character's story along with it. I really like this book, and I think it's a sci-fi story that I think it's very unique, and I haven't heard many people talk about it on BookTube, and I really like a good cast of characters and how their story is in different perspectives of this story, especially when they're trying to survive the alien invasion and try to figure out what to do after that. And I definitely really think many people should read this because it's a really good sci-fi book, and it's very underrated as well. If you're looking for an underrated sci-fi book, I do recommend this one. And the next book that I recommend to you guys is Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston. This is a sci-fi retelling of Anastasia, and in this one she joins the group of rebels that goes against the kingdom, and the story goes from there, and you get characters' perspectives as well. And I'm usually not a fan of books that has more than two characters' perspectives. With this one, I'm like, I just love the characters so much, and I just really love, like, seeing different characters' point of views, and also I just really love the characters in here, and I also love the romance in this one, and I think many people should read it just because if you're a fan of Anastasia, I do recommend this book, especially when it's a sci-fi retelling of it. So another sci-fi retelling that I'm recommending to you guys. So if you're looking for an Anastasia retelling, but you also love sci-fi, I do recommend this, especially when people have really loved Anastasia. And the last book that I'm recommending to you guys is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and this is about a dystopian world where people go into the virtual reality, and the original creator of the original reality died, but he ends up putting clues in his virtual reality world, and then whoever finds the Easter egg gets his fortune, since he doesn't have any descendant. And you follow Wade, who wants to fulfill his dream and also want to find this Easter egg till he would be out of the living situation that he is in. I'm trying to remember on top of my head, but I really loved Ready Player One when I first read it before the movie came out, and I know some people did not like the movie, but I was one of the ones who really enjoyed it, and I really do agree with some people that the sequel is unnecessary, but I am really curious about it at the same time, and I really love the character in this one as well, and I really love the pop culture references in here, and that's what I love about it as well, and I do think it's another one that people should try, even though it's popular, and especially if you love video games, I do recommend you read Ready Player One. So that's all for my sci-fi and dystopian book recommendations. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and comment down below some sci-fi and dystopian books you want to recommend me. And if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you'll notified whenever I post new videos. Also, you can follow me on social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, which all links will be down below for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!